Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Lords of the Screen podcast. We're a film and entertainment podcast, and it's just me today. It's Future Kevin, because I'm going to be taking you back to the past. A few months ago, the guys and I, when we were still the Kentucky Seasonal podcast, recorded a couple of episodes that we just never actually got around to finishing or editing. One of them is Godzilla Vs.Kong, and the second one is Mortal Kombat. They were both on HBO Max for a while. You probably watched them. They were free there. Godzilla vs. Kong also did super well in theaters. But yeah, we just never got the time to release them, so I'm releasing them now. I put together a couple of cuts. Mortal Kombat is more of like a smash cut. It was a pretty bad episode, actually, surprisingly. So I just smashed a couple of things together. Godzilla vs. Kong comes first, and then we'll transition into Mortal Kombat. So enjoy the episode, guys. Enjoy the lost episode. And Future Kevin will be back to tag us out at the end. So thanks for listening, and enjoy, guys. To the main event, guys. We haven't even said it yet on the podcast, but we are here to talk about Godzilla vs. Kong today. So, starting off, I just wanted to know, just sort of a general question to both of you guys, like how big you are into the MonsterVerse, how invested you are in these kaiju movies in particular, and who would you want to win? Just before this movie came out, if you heard Godzilla vs. Kong, which of the two would you have picked? So I'll start with you, Nick. Are you a MonsterVerse fan? Are you interested in this? And who would you want to win before you saw the movie?
So I am really, I guess not, because this was the first one of these movies I watched. I didn't see any of the other ones going in.
Really?
I just went straight into this. Yeah, I didn't see the other three movies.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just went in blind. I knew that you two had. So I was like, this is like the second time I've done this where I was like, I could watch these and get up to date, but I'll kind of just go in blind and see how it goes. And yeah, I mean, the plot wasn't too hard to follow, so that was fine. But I'd say, so yeah, I would say I'm not particularly interested in this like MonsterVerse stuff. I did grow up, watching anime and things like that, so like I've definitely like not completely unacquainted with kaiju and things like that, but that being said, the person the monster I would pick to win would definitely be the monkey. Gotta pick the monkey.
All right, what about you, Kev?
I am a lifelong fan of these kaiju movies. Ever since I was a kid, going all the way back to the the Showa era of the Godzilla movies and all the monsters. I watched all that stuff ad nauseum as a kid on the Sci-Fi Channel with my dad. So Godzilla, Rodan, Gamera, Mothra, all of those. I was much more into the Japanese stuff than the Western King Kong. Really, King Kong is kind of, up until Pacific Rim, he was really the only Western kaiju I guess we had. Unless anybody else can think of one. Cloverfield, I guess, but even then that's 2000s.
Right.
So yeah, I have just a huge affection for men stomping around in rubber monster suits. That this series heretofore has done a pretty good job of scratching that itch. I think not so much the first one, but the King of the Monsters. I thought I really enjoyed all the kaiju stuff in that, and in this one I thought the kaiju stuff was pretty great. We'll get into that, but yeah, I've just been a lifelong fan of this stuff.
Who would you pick to win before you saw this movie?
I mean, there's no goddamn way that Godzilla would not win this ever. Just ever.
All right.
Ever.
All right. Let's cut it off there because we're gonna talk about that. But I guess I'm a newer kaiju fan. Like I've always liked the kaiju, but as far as like the MonsterVerse goes with Godzilla and all that, I'm a newer fan as of like. I guess maybe like 2005, whenever like Peter Jackson, which is I guess old now, but when Peter Jackson did his King Kong movie, that's when I got really interested in them because it was a big spectacle. It was very cool looking. The story can be argued if it was good or not, but that's kind of when I was first introduced to that stuff back then. And then ever since Peter Jackson's movie, I thought, hey, this is pretty great. This is a lot of fun. Of course, they're not like very heavy or no important story going on usually, but the monsters are great. So yeah, 2014 Godzilla, I checked that out, and then I watched all the other ones, and it's a pretty good little series they've got going here. I wouldn't say it's a big heavy hitter like any sort of giant cinematic universe like Marvel, but it is a fun cinematic universe. And but I would pick Kong to win for a couple of reasons. I knew he wasn't going to. But speaking of that, let's get into the story, guys, of Godzilla vs. Kong. So I'm going to start with the most boring part of all of these movies. Nick, you haven't seen them starting with Godzilla 2014. Then we have Kong Skull Island. Then we have Godzilla King of the Monsters. Those are the three previous movies to this one. But Kevin, you have seen them, and you know as well as I do that the human side characters are garbage in these films.
Just trash. Absolute trash.
Just following their plot is incomprehensible. It's not interesting. You really just want to see Godzilla, especially in Godzilla 2014 when you hardly see Godzilla.
Yeah.
You just want to see him come in and just wreck these monsters' shit. And so we'll talk about the human side characters starting off in Godzilla vs. Kong here. Millie Bobby Brown, Nick, you wouldn't know this, or maybe you would if you saw some of the trailers from the previous ones, but Millie Bobby Brown is returning from King of the Monsters. And just as irrelevant as ever, following this side plot of how she's going to find this conspiracy theory like podcaster and get in and try to help Godzilla because she knows from the previous movie that Godzilla is not bad, despite what everyone else thinks. Kevin, I'll start with you. Millie Bobby Brown, the podcaster guy, her little chubby friend on their misadventures. To me, this was the worst part of the movie, even compared to the other human characters. What do you think?
I mean, you could have removed this entirely from the plot and not lost a goddamn thing. They were absolutely useless. Even their one big contribution to the final battle. You could have written around that in so many different ways, and not have to then sit through this 30 minutes of whatever bullshit they're doing. They were just awful. I mean, just awful. And all three of those are actors that I like. I think Millie Bobby Brown is very talented. Brian Tyree Henry, who plays the podcaster, he is amazing in Atlanta, the TV show Atlanta.
Yes,
terrific in that. And then the other little kid, he's from Deadpool 2 and Hunt for the Wilder People. He's a little New Zealand kid. I can't think of his name right now, but he's funny, really a lot of fun. But the script here, what they were given to work with was just dumb. It was just stupid, and just did not need it at all. When I rewatched the movie, I've seen this twice now. I fast forwarded through their scenes. I just skipped right past them.
They're useless.
Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. I think the podcast was a good idea because I do think like a conspiracy theory monster podcast would exist in that universe.
Oh yeah.
I think they should have used it like maybe between scene transitions or something, like on the radio or like as a narrator or something, and just kind of had him talking about what he thinks is going on and conspiracy theories. But actually having him run around with Millie Bobby Brown makes literally no sense. Yeah. They break into all of these like high tech government facility, or I guess like private facilities, but like that are owned by all these corporations with tons of security, and they just get in. They
walk
fly
right
on an airship to China. They just walk right in. And there's no security that kills them or anything. Right. Like it is.
So the whole
absurd.
The whole point of their story is to reveal spoilers. We're just talking full spoilers for the movie. Is to reveal Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
And that time would have been much better spent had we just focused on the villains, on I can't think of the name, but the Mexican actor, Demian Bashir. Demian Bashir, who's the head of this corporation Apex. If we'd have just focused all that time on him and his, circle of lackeys right there, building up their motivations and their story, you can still hit every single beat that is needed, revealing Mechagodzilla, the connection with Ghidorah, all that stuff could have been still done, but you would have given more color and more shade to the actual villains of the piece, who heretofore are just useless. I mean, they're just super, super one-note and generic in the movie that we got. So that time would have been much better spent with them instead of, the teenagers running around.
Teenagers capable of breaking into the facility that built
Right.
Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, and so like Damian Bashir is the head of Apex. I forget his name in the show, but he's the founder of Apex. He's building Mechagodzilla. He's fine as a mustache twirling villain or whatever. It's like you said, yeah, like follow him a little bit. Let's get his motivation, and then you can even cut down that screen time because okay, he's building Mechagodzilla. Good to know for later, and then focus more on the better parts of the story, which we'll go to right now. So there's two teams of humans, right? Millie Bobby Brown's team is kind of the Team Godzilla.
Yeah.
And the other team, with Alexander Skarsgård kind of heading them up, is Team King Kong. And King Kong in this story is actually utilized very well as part of the movie.
He's the main, he's the main character.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But first, let's talk about his little team of bros before we move on. I thought they were not as useless as Team Godzilla, thankfully. Yeah. But really, the only one who has any heart is the deaf child that can sign to Godzilla. Mm-hmm. I mean, the other characters are pretty flat. How'd you feel, Nick?
Yeah, pretty much the same, right? Like these characters are like believable as useful, I guess, too. Like we have like scientists and things like that, and like we have this character who I assume taught Kong sign language, which is actually like a really cool idea. Like obviously, right? Because like, I mean, we all know the story of like Coco the gorilla and things like that, and it's like they kind of hint that Kong is like much more intelligent than just like a regular gorilla. So yeah, it like makes sense that Kong would be able to like communicate with people through that way. And like, yeah, I thought that the Kong side of the story was a lot more interesting than what was going on with the, as you put it, the Team Godzilla plot line. So
yeah,
they definitely had a lot more to do,
They did, yeah.
In the previous MonsterVerse films, they've been hinting at it that there's this Hollow Earth theory. And that all of the monsters come from the Hollow Earth. It's Kong's like birthplace. He probably came from there, and they've been talking it up, and we never really get to see it. So Alexander Skarsgård is kind of this like defunct scientist, and he's written a book about the Hollow Earth. And the head of Apex comes and recruits them, and he's like, "Hey, you need to get Kong to take you to the Hollow Earth so I can have this power source. I'm not going to tell you why. I need this power source because it'll help humanity, and you need to do this." And of course, they eventually convince him. It's a Kong movie, or it's it's not going to take much convincing to get the hero to do what he needs to do. But yeah, I thought they were fine. I think that following Kong into the Hollow Earth was cool to finally introduce this theory that they've been building up for 3 movies. But other than that, they don't have much to do either. I mean,
honestly, this is a problem that the franchise has had all the way back to 1954, when the first Godzilla movie came out. Is every single one of these movies, the human characters suck. They're just there as a time sink. Because we only have so much budget to have so much screen time of the monsters, and so we need to fill out the time, so let's have the humans do some stuff. And that's been a problem dating all the way back to the inception of this stuff. So it's a little interesting that, even after 70 years, we still haven't figured out how to get interesting human characters in these movies. It's a little sad.
Well, I think it just comes down to effort mostly, right? Like they're not putting time into making a script interesting, or like thinking. Right. There's not a lot of thought put into how to make it work. It's just kind of like, look, let's just copy and paste some of the most generic, plot hits we can to just fill the time till we get to the monster shit. That's totally what they're doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, just Blockbuster 101, you've got to balance your explosions, and in this case, your monsters, with human stories, with actual emotional arcs. Your characters have to start in one place, and through the course of the movie, change their views, change their attitudes, and end up in a completely different place. That's called character growth. And that is something that these movies have never been able to achieve. Where you look at some other, blockbusters, the movies of Chris Nolan, like Interstellar, I thought did a really good job at that. Inception as well did a really good job at that. But even go look back at the 90s and 90s blockbusters like Armageddon, shit like that. Independence Day. There's actual character growth amongst all of the special effects. That's how you make a good blockbuster. So the closest that this series has come so far to that, I think, was Vera Farmiga in King of the Monsters, where she was, the scientist who turns into an eco-terrorist. Right. And then, and then again switches back to, oh shit, I messed up. That's the closest that it's ever came, but even then it wasn't all that great. So these movies, they really just need a shot in the arm as far as to actual get that human story right, that connection that you as a viewer can connect to these characters with. I don't think it'll ever happen, but that's what they need.
I think you guys probably hit the nail on the head. I was going to ask the question, how do you make the human characters interesting? What could they do? And I think maybe Nick probably answered it. Maybe it is just time and effort. Maybe it is just looking at your story and actually trying.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you just have to connect their emotional arcs to what's going on with the monsters. For example, you have Alexander Skarsgård. He's, his story is that his dead brother died researching the Hollow Earth, and that's it. Well, you need to dig into that and show me how you really, how you as a character are really affected by that. Maybe you have this animosity and this anger towards King Kong because your brother died researching King Kong. And so you are, maybe you're siding with the bad guys at first and you're trying to exploit him. And then through the course of you interacting with him and fighting alongside him, you realize that, oh, this guy is a force for good. I need to protect him. That's character growth, and this stuff is not hard. It's just, you got to do it.
I think it's really, you kind of fall into the trap of, wanting to please fans who just want to see the monsters fight, And it's like, do we put the effort into the story whenever we know that the monsters are just going to come out and smash stuff and it's going to be really cool?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, those people will still benefit from having a better human story in this, because everyone complains about the humans, whether they're just like, I just would have rather have sat down and watched 45 minutes of the monsters hitting each other or whatever, you know what I mean? Like the main complaint is always the human element. And if you elevate the human element, maybe you could even put some more action scenes with the humans. That could be interesting somehow. I don't know how they would do it necessarily, but like, I don't know, if you made Aliens like type action scenes where you have like dudes with guns doing cool shit, that might even make things more interesting, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, you bring the monsters down to their level. There's a scene in the movie where it does kind of do that with the when they're in the Hollow Earth and there's the creepy vultures. That's a direct foil for the humans because they're the same scale.
Right.
And that scene was great. More of that. Do more of that.
You see a lot of that in Kong Skull Island as well, with all the different creatures.
You do,
and the humans, having to get away from the creatures. That's a good way to utilize them. Yeah. Not very much of that in this film though, but I guess. We've talked about the human side characters, and is there anything else to add? Because, I mean, there's not much to these guys. You guys have anything else?
I mean, just missed opportunity. I found this out not by watching the movie twice, but by reading about it later, was that the character who, the Japanese man who hooks himself up to Ghidorah's skull, who pilots Mechagodzilla, that's actually Ken Watanabe's character's son. Ken Watanabe's the scientist from the first two Godzilla movies. That's his son, and they never once explore that relationship.
Get that at all. I had no idea.
Yeah, exactly. I only found that out through supplemental material, not through the script or not through the film, which was just a missed opportunity there. So it's clearly the filmmakers have a priority. Frankly, it's probably the right priority because everybody's here to watch, the monsters fight each other, and that's fine. It's just, you're crippling yourself from getting your film to the next level by only focusing on that stuff.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, let's talk about the good parts of the movie, or the more interesting parts. Obviously, the big monsties. Godzilla and Kong. They're the two kaiju, the two titans, as they call them in this universe, featured in the film. So let's start with Godzilla, because if you're a big Godzilla fan, I guess really until the end of the movie, you could probably argue he was done a little bit dirty, especially after King of the Monsters. He defeats Ghidorah, he saves mankind, and all the other titans bow down to him, and he kind of gets all the other monsters to leave, right? In this movie, from the onset, he's the bad guy. He's awful. He's killing people, destroying cities. I guess, Nick, I'll start with you. As an outsider who hadn't seen the previous three, were you kind of wondering why Godzilla was bad, or were you just kind of like, he's killing shit, that's Godzilla?
I was definitely like wondering, but like what I assumed is like there was something, and I guess it kind of turned out to be right, but like I assumed that Apex was doing something sinister to like provoke Godzilla, because he was specifically attacking like Apex mostly, and it was, I don't know, they kind of like tie it in where it's like the whole like he's seeking out the monsters and stuff, which I guess should have been more of a hint that Apex was up to the whole Mechagodzilla thing. But I had questions because I knew that they were talking about how Godzilla was the savior of the universe and stuff like that, and how everybody was very shocked. But I guess that was kind of the point, is it was supposed to be surprising.
Yeah. What about you, Kev? How did you feel about Godzilla starting out as the villain? I mean, honestly, he's kind of the villain throughout the whole movie until towards the end.
Yeah, villain's a strong word. One thing I've always liked about the original Godzilla, before he became the mascot that he would eventually become, was Godzilla started out as an allegory for nuclear fallout. Japan was obviously hit by the nuclear bombs in World War II in the mid 40s. 9 or 10 years later, they make this movie that is about a radioactive monster just terrorizing and destroying Tokyo. So the origins of Godzilla is very much an allegory for a negative force. So he was started out as a villain, basically. It wasn't until throughout the late 50s and early 60s where he became the kind of the kooky good guy. So this started out, I thought it was a little bit kind of a return to that, was okay, this is just this feral beast, this monster, which is fine, except that it's just a big tonal mishmash from the previous movies in this direct series, without really any satisfactory explanation. The only explanation we get is that he senses Mechagodzilla somehow because he's a magic monster and he can just sense these things, and so he's it's a little hand wavy, it's just a little thin.
I thought so too. Yeah. I feel that I don't know. I kind of wish they had written the story a little bit differently. I do really like Kong being the hero, the heart of the story. I do really like that. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it kind of does a little bit of a disservice to Godzilla. Because if you look at it from the humans' standpoint in this film, they should honestly never trust Godzilla again. Even if he saves the day, even if there's people out there like that are part of these, Monarch and Apex, part of these companies that study these monsters. If you're just a normal everyday human, and Godzilla came up and smushed your grandmother under a bridge or something, you're gonna be like, look, I am never trusting this huge bastard again. He's an evil fucker. Yeah. Like, I don't care if they say he's the savior of humanity or whatever. Like, Godzilla just keeps killing too many people, and like to start him out as this like villain, this rampaging, and like I know he's destroying the Apex facility, but he's also destroying like a city in the meantime. Yeah. So
I think had they just focused his violence directly onto Apex, and he's obviously an intelligent creature. If you could have had him, show him consciously making the choice to not kill civilians but only kill the Apex facility, that I think would have been more interesting, and it would have kind of got you a little more just involved already with what's going on with Godzilla, instead of just he's just rampaging.
Yeah, and I understand why they did it. I mean, Godzilla's huge. He's gonna just cause a lot of destruction anyway. I get it. I think it's an interesting, way to do this, especially when there's so many Godzilla fans out there. I mean, people came into this movie definitely wanting Godzilla to win. I think he was the favored, one. Yeah. He's got a big fan base. Mm-hmm. So for the director and the writers to kind of be like, let's make him kind of a piece of shit in this one. I just thought it was an interesting take on Godzilla.
I find it really interesting, and I guess kind of disappointing that in this world where we've been living with kaiju for almost 10 years now, that there has been apparently in the coastal cities no thought as to safety infrastructure, as to like building fallout shelters or evacuation zones that people can quickly get to. I don't know, it just seems to me that that's a missed opportunity.
Think about the U.S. It would just go straight to the military budget.
Well, yeah, you're
That's
absolutely
true.
right.
That's
You're absolutely
true.
right.
Someone would probably say that he's fake, even after he's killed like 10 million people. You know?
Or he was a big robot controlled by the government. I'm sure that would be pretty popular.
Yeah, the liberal government. But yeah,
Godzilla's controlled by Hunter Biden's laptop.
Oh no!
My God. That should have been how they wrote the story. Yeah, that's much better. But anyway, okay, let's talk about the big boy of the movie, everybody's favorite, lovable King Kong. So King Kong has been imprisoned by Monarch, which is the sort of government people or shady people that have been monitoring all these monsters in the previous 3 movies. They have him imprisoned on his home of Skull Island in this dome, and obviously he's smart enough to figure out, like, he throws a tree through the dome, and he knows he's captured, but, like, he kind of relaxes with it. He's kind of cool with it. He's just like, oh, I wish I wasn't captured. But then he doesn't kill anybody or rampage or anything. Like, he's kind of the good guy of the film. So I guess I'll start with you, Nick. As far as Kong's like story arc, he talks to the child. He knows sign language. Like he's perceived as very intelligent. And they obviously show a lot of respect to him. What did you feel of Kong's like story arc in this?
It was
film?
like my favorate part of the movie by like a lot, right? Like even when Kong wasn't fighting, he was still really cool. Like he still had like a lot of cool things going on. Like Godzilla in this movie, he's just kind of. He's more of like a prop, I guess, of destruction. Like he's just this big thing that goes through and blows things up, and then till like the very end, and he gets like a little bit of weird to say about a kaiju, but a little bit of characterization. But yeah, Kong is definitely he's the heart and soul of this movie, and like I think it really works out. Like I enjoy like they kind of give you a vague idea of like the history of like Kong species and things like that, and I thought it was actually kind of interesting and fun, and I enjoy him when he's doing the Hollow Earth stuff and he's not even fighting.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Kev?
I have so many questions about the Hollow Earth stuff, though.
Yeah, I do too.
Which, yes, I agreed. The Kong stuff was the best part of the movie. Loved it. But okay, so the Hollow Earth. They have to go through underground, where there's this wormhole that they have to go through that flips gravity around because reasons. And then when they get down there, underground, there's, mountains of both below and above them. So they're in this sandwich situation. There's apparently a sun down there.
Yeah. I was wondering that myself. I don't know what's going on. I don't get it.
And also there's signs of advanced civilization to the scale of Kong and kaiju. So my big question here, and I hope this is the case because man, I want this movie if that's the case. Is Kong's race, were they like super intelligent, capable of building machinery and sculpting these art sculptures, these giant statues, and I hope that's the case because that would be fucking cool.
That would be cool. Yeah.
I wish we would have kind of gotten into that a bit more. But yeah, no, what we saw of Kong's story, again, there's an emotional arc there, which I really, really enjoyed. And that stuff just helps your movie. Him at the end being, I guess we're spoiling, right? Getting his ass just laid out by Godzilla, and he's literally dead, and has to be brought back to life through whatever. But there's that wonderful character moment of shit. I just got my ass beat, but I'm still going to help the guy that just killed me because it's the right thing to do. I don't know. We're putting a lot of anthropomorphization on a monkey here, but I think that was the intention, and it really worked for me because they put
It's the smartest thing the writers and the director did, in my opinion. It's the smartest thing they did because apes are close to humans anyway. We already feel that even if they are a significant degree dumber than us, we still feel like this connection to apes because we're like, oh, they're just like us. They're like humans. And I think it's probably the best writing decision they could have come up with for this movie. So I guess let's talk about the big set pieces. Let's talk about what we all came to watch, or is the fights that take place throughout this film. The first fight, the aircraft carriers in the water. I thought this was an excellent first fight set piece to kind of also show how awesome and badass Godzilla is. I mean, this is his fight, right? In the water on the aircraft carriers. I'll start with you, Kevin. Let's talk Kong and let's talk fights.
Oh, it was fucking great. I mean, yeah, it was just from start to finish, man. Just the hype surrounding it really paid off. Credit to the director, Adam Wingard, for really showing in clear, concise ways the geography, the way everything was set up. A lot of the fight was done in these nice wide shots where you could actually see what the fuck is happening, which is pretty rare in modern blockbuster movies. I really loved what he did with the camera through some of these shots. He just really leaned into the theme park aspect of this, and so the camera was on a roller coaster for a lot of it. These really awesome 360 flip shots that are in no way physically possible for an actual camera, but with a virtual camera you can do whatever you want. Right. And he really leaned into that stuff, and it made some really captivating, energetic sequences. Loved it. The scale was great. You could feel every impact in the sound design. It was really, really great. Loved it. Great stuff.
Well, I will say that, in the past movies, especially the Godzilla ones, Godzilla 14 and King of the Monsters, a lot of Godzilla's fights are like in the rain or the fog, or like when he fights Ghidorah the first time, I believe it's like in a lot of the snow. He's like in a snowy mountain. And here, they just kind of say, no, it's going to be in bright daylight. We're going to see the monsters take everything on. Like they fight later in the city. Is it in Tokyo that they fight?
Hong Kong.
I think?
It's Hong Kong.
It's Hong Kong. Okay, and everything's like bright neon, and you have all the colors, and you can see. Yeah, congrats to Adam Wingard, who I believe directed Trick or Treat and a lot of other great films. Just a wonderful director. I've always enjoyed his work, especially Trick or Treat. Wonderful Halloween film. But yeah, congrats to him for making the movie watchable. It's comprehensive. You can see everything going on. Nick, I'll throw it back to you just real quick for that first fight. Anything to add?
I don't know what can be said that Kevin Rice didn't. I mean, yeah, it was awesome. I mean, the choreography was cool. They really thought about interesting ways of how Kong would fight Godzilla and vice versa. And I just thought, it was sweet. Like, what else can be said? It appeals to that primal nature in you where it's just like, big monsters fighting,
well, I mean, even beat by beat, it was just really, really interestingly thought out and well done. Like, Kong starts out tied with the restraints. His whole aircraft carrier that he's on gets flipped over, so he's drowning. There's the whole drama of getting the restraints off, and then him hopping from boat to boat trying to stay away from Godzilla. It was just so fucking well done. The
fights, and I guess we'll just talk about mostly all of them, but I'll stay on the first one for a little bit. But the fights are pretty much exactly what I wanted from the characterization standpoint of the two monsters, because if you look at Kong, right, he's going to be calculating, he's going to be smart. I would say Kong's a little bit smarter than Godzilla. I think that's fair.
Undoubtedly,
And if you look at the him and his, you get the close up shot of his face, and he's calculating if he can jump across the three different aircraft carriers, and then you just have Godzilla in that fight, who's he's the Leviathan, right? He comes from the sea, he's menacing. You don't see him very much, you see his spikes pointing out and stuff. And when I was kind of envisioning this movie, or you're kind of like a kid playing with your toys,
right,
just mashing them together, or that's pretty much exactly what I was hoping for from the writing standpoint. I think they really did them justice. Yeah. Real quickly, I wanted to talk about the second fight in Hong Kong, and also Godzilla's axe, or not Godzilla, Kong's axe that he gets from his home in the Hollow Earth. Yeah. Apparently, his ancestors used tools and whatnot, and his family used tools to fight with. Was that a Godzilla scale?
It was,
axe?
And a bone as well, It's one of his dorsal fin spines.
I wonder.
It's awesome.
I'm wondering if it was. It is really awesome, but I'm wondering if it's is it Godzilla's ancestors, or is that actually Godzilla that the Kongs have always been fighting?
No, I think it's his ancestors, because we know from the previous movies that Godzilla is not the first of his kind. There have been others. In fact, there's even a line early in the movie about that they're ancestral enemies.
Got it.
Yeah, okay. So there's apparently a lot of history between the Kong species which I'm just going to go ahead and call a society, because I mean that's what we saw in the Hollow Earth. There was like architecture and shit.
It's Gorilla City from DC.
Yeah, right. Fighting, battling with the Godzilla species. And I want to see that movie. Show me that movie.
That would be awesome.
What do you call it? Like Kong Hollow Earth or something like that? That'd be kind of cool.
Something like that. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
So before the movie came out, I mean, people were all, a lot of Godzilla fans, as I stated before, were like, oh, well, the atomic breath is going to kick Kong's ass. I mean, he's just going to fry him. He's in like... I was thinking the whole time, I was like, you realize Kong is a primate, right? He has thumbs, he has like legs, like he's going to be going all over the place. And I thought it was great because like every time Godzilla tried to breathe like his atomic breath on him, he's either like grabbing his mouth, pulling it around, like shoving the axe, which is a throwback to when he shoves the tree in Godzilla's mouth from the older films, or the older film. So I thought it was cool, Kong utilizes tools to obviously like put him on a more even footing.
And his quickness, his nimbleness. That Hong Kong fight, he's constantly darting around through the buildings and trying to evade Godzilla. It's just, again, it's a really smart use of understanding each character's strengths and weaknesses and then playing to that.
Yeah, Godzilla and his villains have never been known for their agility in their fights.
Right. Yeah. Especially in the last movie, I mean, Ghidorah, he's pretty much just a huge, big, hulking mass like Godzilla is, so they just kind of hit each other over and over. And it was cool to see Kong's like agility. He uses tools, and at the end of the day, as Kevin already brought up, in the final fight between them, I mean, Godzilla just beats his ass, which I think is appropriate. I know that if you're a hardcore like Kongist, you're gonna get angry that he didn't win, but I think it's very important and very cool that the writers decided, hey, we're gonna have a definitive winner in this big like versus movie.
Yeah, and it's not like Kong like doesn't put up a fight, and like it actually looks pretty good for him until like he loses his axe for a while and things like that. It's still a good fight, even though he does definitively lose by the end, right? Yeah.
Well, he earns Godzilla's respect.
Yeah.
Godzilla could have killed him, but he didn't. And then of course at the end there's that wonderful moment where they're squaring off again after defeating Mechagodzilla, and Kong throws the axe down and Godzilla turns away. I love that bit because it's just they're friends now. Yay!
Yeah. Enemies to lovers. I mean,
right.
Right. So I thought that took some real balls. We've had a lot of these big versus movies in the past, and sometimes it's ambiguous, or like sometimes it's like, oh, we're not going to draw a line in the sand as to not upset the fans. But I think they did the right thing. They showcased what the monsters do best. They gave them both really good moments. And at the end of the day, the king of the monsters, I mean, he's already been called the king of the monsters in the last film. He wins. Yeah. Godzilla wins. So I thought that was appropriate. Let's talk about, obviously, what we all knew was coming, because you can't have a versus movie without the two cool monsters fighting some other monster. So obviously we talked about Apex making Mechagodzilla earlier in the film. First of all, Mechagodzilla is powered by Ghidorah's head. One of the heads was saved in the last movie, and it's basically made, I guess, to some way make the AI of Mechagodzilla. They don't explain it very well.
Yeah, they don't explain it very well, and it's actually they kind of contradict themselves, because the way King of the Monsters ends, there's that post-credit scene where Tywin Lannister, Charles Dance,
right,
he buys the salvaged head, one of the severed heads, but Ghidorah had 3 heads. So in this movie, they have the skull, and then at one point, Brian Tyree Henry, the podcaster, he says, "Oh, this one's connected to the one that's in the monster." So are all 3 skulls kind of like they don't really kind of establish fully what exactly is going on there. So is it? I think what it's supposed to be is there's Skull A down here that Home Dude is piloting, telepathically connected to Skull B inside of Mechagodzilla, I think is what it was supposed to be, but they don't really make that clear. And then of course there's then there's the whole issue with the power source, which is just nutty. So I guess we'll get into that a bit. That's the whole reason that Apex wants to go to Hollow Earth, is to find this power source that will sufficiently power Mechagodzilla. And the way they get that is by when they get down there and everything is all lit up, they just take a little spider robot and scan it, and that somehow transmits the data of a power source back up to what?
His daughter gets crushed in that submarine thing or whatever.
Yeah, I love that bit.
I did too.
Yeah.
I was like, do it, Kong.
Yeah. But the plot machinations are just it's what we call fridge logic. If you like the TV Trope website, it's called fridge logic. It's one of those things that in the moment it's fine, but as soon as you step away from the movie and go to the fridge and get a snack, and you just like, wait a minute, that makes no goddamn sense.
You know, honestly, the whole Mechagodzilla, I was thinking about this because the Ghidorah thing makes no sense, and I was thinking, like, the whole point of Mechagodzilla is, like, human hubris, right? Like, humanity pushing themselves too far to compete with these kaiju. And that's why the Mechagodzilla goes crazy and kills the Apex founder and starts attacking everybody. I think they should have just tied it back into humanity and, like, have the Apex founder say, hey, I made this super advanced AI because humans are the smartest and we can do everything. And then just have the AI go rogue. I mean, it's a much easier writing, like, from a writing standpoint. And then, like, you also have, like, this AI that's like, oh, okay, well, the humans and monsters can't live peacefully, so I'm just going to kill them both. And
I don't even think you need the AI, because you're still, even with the AI, you're taking the human agency out of it. Just have the humans be the bad guys piloting Mechagodzilla. Done. Fine.
Yeah, that works too. I mean, it's like you said, Ken Watanabe's son does nothing in the film except get fried. I was just thinking of, like, you know, something. Give the humans, like, something that, you know. But, yeah, having the whole Ghidorah head and doesn't really make a lot of sense to begin with. But it was cool as hell to see Mechagodzilla on the big screen.
Oh, yeah, no, totally. Times. Yeah, loved it. Loved to see it. It's great.
Yeah, he was dope. He was awesome. I actually believe that he was actually as powerful as Godzilla. I thought that was great. You know, he's got the... I don't know what kind of power source breath or whatever the fuck they gave him, but he had it. And, they had a big Dragon Ball Z beam.
Just don't think about
battle.
it. Just don't think about it. Just watch it.
Yeah, just don't think about it. The big cool Dragon Ball Z beam fight, and of course Godzilla's getting defeated, and Kong has to, you know, be resuscitated and come to his aid. You know, writing 101. We all expected it, but it was awesome to see.
Yeah, it was. It was really well. Again, we've talked about this before. It's fine if your story is predictable and your story is cliche, as long as you execute it well. And that's kind of this is a perfect example of that. Is we all knew what was going to happen, that a third villain's going to pop up and they're going to have to team up to defeat it, but they executed it very well.
Yeah,
and I will say that you know, Kong just got his ass beat, so giving him a good hero moment where he rips Mechagodzilla's spine out and, like, kills him with the axe and stuff. Yeah, it was good. It was good to give Kong a little hero moment, you know?
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that wraps it up for the film. I mean, you know, Kong and Godzilla are triumphant over humanity's stupidity. Godzilla is fine with humanity now, even though he's killed millions of people. Everybody, I guess, is going to forgive him. Maybe. We'll see. I think if they were smart in the future, they would have humans be very afraid of him, despite, you know, him being the savior or whatever. But, yeah, that's Godzilla vs. Kong in a nutshell. I'll start with you, Nick. Overall, what did you think of Godzilla vs. Kong?
It was fun, man. I mean, yeah, it's what you expect with these movies, where the human characters, bleh, but the fights are awesome. Check it out for that, if nothing else. Also, I think they made a good decision with this movie in that it's so weird that we have to say this. We can say this now. It's only 2 hours long.
I know, right?
they didn't make it into like a 2.5 hour or 2 hour 45-minute like mega event and drag it all out. 2 hours, get it done, perfect. Right. I thought it was fun. Check it out. Definitely you'll enjoy yourself. Good popcorn flick, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I'll give my final thoughts and then I'll throw it over to Kevin. But yeah, just I thought this was a great way, even if they don't, I mean, there's been rumblings that they might not continue the MonsterVerse. I think that they obviously will after the success of this one. But even if they don't, I think this was a perfect ending for it. It was a lot of fun. It was good to see Kong get some hero moments, even though he's obviously the weaker monster, and they demonstrated that within the film. Yeah, it was good. It was a lot of fun. You know, if you do watch it, you can pretty much do what Kevin did and just skip past a lot of the human scenes. They're not necessary, but I thought it was well directed. I thought a lot of the writing choices were smart, which I didn't think I would say because that doesn't happen very often in these movies. So yeah, kudos to them for making some really good writing choices, respecting the monsters, and like Nick said, respecting people's time. 2 hours is perfect. You don't need a 3-hour mega event, Snyder Cut, and MonsterVerse bullshit. Just end it, give it 2 hours and let it be done. It was perfect. It was a good movie if you're a fan of monsters just beating the shit out of each other. So Kevin, what about you?
Well, now I want to see the 4x3 black and white kind of
with extra the triple extra slow-mo edition.
Yeah, it just makes him look so much taller.
No.
God. Yeah, no, this is, I mean, here's the thing. Nobody expects this to be a Pulitzer Prize winning story script, right? We're all here to watch a couple of CGI monsters just beat the fuck out of each other, and this movie delivers that in spades. Just absolutely terrific in that regard. You're gonna need to turn off your brain, because if you start thinking about the plot, this way madness lies. Likewise with the characters, just go ahead and accept that the human characters are just kind of just placeholders. They're just there to fill out time. But the meat of this movie, the stuff that actually matters, delivers 100%. So absolutely recommend it. I wish I would have seen it in the big screen. We watched it here at home on HBO Max. I think, especially in IMAX. I gotta love to have seen it.
That would have been great.
It still played really well at home, I thought. So you kind of briefly mentioned, Kev, if there's going to be a sequel or not, and that's really up in the air right now because Legendary Pictures, their contract for these characters with Toho, which is the Japanese studio, ended with this movie.
Oh, interesting.
And there has not been any discussions, at least not publicly, about extending the contract to get more. So this very well might be the last one of this American Monsterverse that we get. If it is the case, I do think it concludes in a very final way, I think, which works as an ending. So, but I'd love to see more. I mean, honestly, I'd love to see more. There's still a lot of fun monsters to tackle and to bring into the mix. So.
Yeah, I really hope they extend the contract just because these are fun. But yeah, it's a great ending. I think it's finally complete. I think it's fine with 4 movies. You don't really need much more, and they could probably reboot it again in a couple years if they needed to, which they probably would. But I mean, yeah, these Godzilla and King Kong, these characters are never going to 100% go away. They'll be around in some form. For example, King Kong is going to be in Space Jam 2 this summer. Oh God, yeah. So there you go. Hey guys, Future Kevin back again. That wraps up Godzilla vs. Kong. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and we're going to transfer over to Mortal Kombat. Let's fight. Just like Scorpion rising from the grave, we've returned. Mortal Kombat. I wanted to ask you guys, actually, before we start talking about Mortal Kombat, the film, what is your history with Mortal Kombat? Do you guys play the games? Have you guys watched the old movies? Are you big fans? Not so much fans? I'll start with you, Nick. Before Mortal Kombat 2021, are you a fan of the series?
Yeah, I've played the games and things like that. I was never been like a big super fan or anything. I definitely have had a few of the titles where I got really into them, or even briefly played with them. But I've never been like a super fan. But yeah, I've always enjoyed the games for sure.
What about you, Kev?
Oh, absolutely. I was the kid who my brother and I would go down to the corner store when I was a kid and pump just endless amounts of quarters into the machine in the gas station. Love the games. Absolutely love the games. I think they they lost their way in the middle there. They got kind of pretty bad, but here recently they've really stepped their game back up and returned to form. I've played most of the games. I have a big old soft spot for the original movie. I recognize that it's not good, but I love it. So yeah.
Yeah, same here. I really like that original movie. I didn't see it until some years later, but I love the cheesiness of it and the.
I was day one in the theater. And you know one thing?
Oh wow.
They don't really do this type of stuff anymore. But there was a touring, like a Mortal Kombat Live touring show that we went to when I was a kid. I was probably 12 or 13, and it was a live stage show. Kind of the movie. It was kind of the same basic story of the movie. But you got to see all the one-on-one stunt show fights and all that stuff, and it was pretty cool.
That is cool.
Wait for the Mortal Kombat Hamilton crossover.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what that sounds like to me.
That would be a lot of fun. Yeah, I never played the games when I was a kid. My parents were much too Christian for that. Way too afraid of Mortal Kombat. So I actually didn't get involved with it until I think it was man, when was it now? The Mortal Kombat 9 like reboot where they rebooted the entire story. I forget what year that was, like 2012 or something.
2012, 2013, somewhere like almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And ever since then, I've been involved in the series. Great series. I like the rebooted story. I've never played the older games, but yeah, I've been like caught up since then and love all the characters and all that. But yeah, I never got into the series, which I'm sure a lot of our listeners probably never did either, especially being around like the age I was when Mortal Kombat was out. I bet a lot of parents probably kept them away from the machines or, didn't allow them to see it. But yeah, I'm here now, and hopefully some of you listeners are here now too, because it's a pretty fun franchise. A lot of cheese.
I guess I just got lucky with my parents, because my parents, even for video games and movies and all that stuff, had always had the attitude, the kid knows it's fake, the kid knows it's not real, it's not going to make him a murderer. I've never understood that mindset of, we can't let the kid play the video game because he's going to kill somebody. It's just stupid. Right.
Yeah.
My mom, I'll give her this. She was consistent. There was an M rating on the box. I could not have it. It was at least a rule that she held to, and it wasn't like a lot of people out there where it just kind of changed based on the day. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure Mortal Kombat came out at least because I remember I had Mortal Kombat 3 on the Super Nintendo, and I don't think ratings were a thing yet in video games. I might be wrong, but I don't think they were. That's how old I am. So yeah,
that's helpful. That would have been nice for little Kevin. I mean, I've killed 3 men since I started watching Mortal Kombat, but
that's true. Yeah,
nothing's changed. Anyway, guys, let's get into the film Mortal Kombat 2021. So it's about a young MMA fighter named Cole Young. He's a new character and kind of a washed-up piece of garbage fighter. He's taking a beating, and for some reason, the evil Emperor Shang Tsung has sent Sub-Zero, or Bihan, after him, and we don't know why. So starting out with the first scene of the film, probably the best scene of the film. Would you guys agree?
Absolutely. It's all downhill from the beginning, yeah.
Right.
So we have, going back in time to like feudal Japan, we have like Hanzo Hasashi, which is Scorpion, taking care of his family, and of course Sub-Zero attacks. And this part of the film was absolutely great. I think everybody watching was like, oh man, I'm in for a treat. They really like up the production, they up the quality, the fights are awesome here. Sub-Zero looks great, all the powers are looking awesome. Yeah, Nick, what'd you think about the first scene here?
Oh yeah, it's super dope. I mean, yeah, like Kevin Rice said though, it's like the film peaks in the first 10 minutes. The powers look awesome. We get this like very kind of classic Mortal Kombat, like over the top violence with the way they use the ice and things like that. It's really great. But yeah, it's definitely for me where the film just straight up peaks.
Yeah, I mean, so not only was I really feel like everything was just firing here on all cylinders, because the fight choreography, the cinematography, the acting, the script was even really solid in this scene. It really put me in the mindset of, okay, this is actually going to be like a serious, like good movie. And not just a guilty pleasure. So it was really disappointing that after that just kick-ass opening, things just went off the rails. But I got to talk about my boy Hiroyuki Sanada. Love this guy. He's the guy who plays Scorpion, and he's one of those that guy actors. He's been around for decades. I first noticed him in The Last Samurai, where he plays a great little side character, kind of a foil villain to Tom Cruise in that movie. He's been in Sunshine, he's been in the Marvel Universe in a small role, he's been in Westworld, which we don't really talk about Westworld all that much, but he's great in it.
He was great in it, yeah.
And he's just one of those actors that every time he comes on screen, I know I'm going to have a good time, because he's just so magnetic and so good. And here again, he was great. It's just a damn shame that after this opening scene, he doesn't really pop up again until an hour and a half later. Spoiler, I guess, but who cares? But yeah, so I really enjoyed him, and it set up a really cool villain dynamic rivalry between him and Sub-Zero that I wish was carried through the rest of the movie, but alas, It was not.
Alas, I will say a big shout out to Joe Taslim. Is that how you say his last name? Anyway, Taslim for playing Sub-Zero as well. I thought he was like just as menacing going up against Scorpion. I thought he did a wonderful job, man.
I do think he was cast solely for his eyebrows, though. Because if you're gonna have that Sub-Zero mask on all the time, you got to have these thick, expressive eyebrows, and his were off the chart.
They were. He was kind of like a horror movie villain at a lot of
He was
points.
a bit, yeah.
Like kind of like a slasher villain, just popping up in windows and breaking through walls. But yeah, he was a lot of fun as Sub-Zero. I think we'll come to find out that a lot of the casting, or at least most of the casting, wasn't the problem with this movie. But I brought him up earlier, so let's go back to Cole Young. So we go to modern day, and this is definitely one of the weaker parts of the movie. So obviously, spoilers, we've already covered that. But Sub-Zero wipes out Scorpion and his family, and they're two like warring clans, right? Sub-Zero belongs to the Lin Kuei, and Scorpion belongs to the Shiro Ryu. So they fight each other. They're warring, and Sub just kills his whole family. Then we go to modern day, and Cole Young is one of the descendants of the Shiro Ryu. He's one of like Scorpion's descendants, but he doesn't know that yet. He's kind of like a loser, just can't win a fight is what I'm getting here. And they send Sub-Zero after him and his family, and that's kind of where the story kicks off. And I have to say, once you cut to modern day, and I don't know if it's like a budget thing or what, or I don't really know the budget that WB like gave to the Mortal Kombat movie, but it was kind of a striking difference. And even the way the cinematography looked, transitioning from the past to the present, it starts to look like a bad like knockoff Fast and the Furious movie almost.
It felt like two different movies altogether.
Right.
Like I was seriously questioning, did they get a different creative team in for that opening scene? They didn't. But they clearly spent a lot more time and focus and energy on it.
And the thing is, too, is like I get like this scene, we transition from a scene with ninjas with all kinds of wacky powers and crazy shit happening, right, to like a dude just in a regular MMA fight. So it's like it's going to feel more grounded and probably not be as like spectacular and cool as the thing I just saw. But it also shouldn't look like trash. You know what I mean? It like goes from not only being like this wiggy thing with great choreography and it looks so cool and badass to just like, wait, now this movie just looks really generic-y and bad out of nowhere. And it's very off-putting.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I was honestly a little let down. I think everybody was, because I was like, oh man, like it's like going from a movie to a television series, like a bad television series, obviously. Right. But like, I was like, man, this is a shame. It took such a hit in quality, but you're still willing to give it a shot just to see where it goes. I didn't know that Cole Young was a made-up character. Like, I was like, wait a minute, I know the Mortal Kombat cast pretty well, but who is this dude? Like.
Yeah, he was a brand new character, and the intention, was to we need a blank slate audience surrogate, somebody that the audience can latch onto, and then we can explain the world and the rules and all the exposition to Cole at the same time we're explaining it to the audience. That's the reason you put a character like that in. But the mistake here is that the Mortal Kombat roster, the cast of characters, is so colorful and so dynamic and frankly just like stacked. There are plenty of people, already known characters that you could have put in that audience surrogate role and been just fine, and then you would have actually not had such a bland milquetoast nothing of a character like Cole was.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, normally, Liu Kang is featured as the hero kind of in the games a lot. And he's in this movie as well as, he's cool in the movie, but he kind of comes across as more of a side character than a leading role, which I thought was weird. The decision to use Cole, I thought was just a bad decision all around. Because we'll get to his powers later, but even his powers were not up to the standard of Mortal Kombat itself. Kano even comes across as kind of the star of the show, and oddly enough, Kano in the games is the ultimate side character. He's kind of the ultimate jobber, ultimate just sort of henchman. I mean, he's funny and he's great, but Kano has never been a leading man in the games. In the films, it's totally opposite. Let's talk about Josh Lawson, and I'll start with you, Kevin. Kano's featured very heavily in this movie, and he seems to be one of the only ones with an actual personality. Now, do you think this was just the script, or do you think the actor was making it his own?
I think probably Josh Lawson brought a lot to it. I mean, I can't imagine, judging the rest of the script, that all of a sudden here's one character who actually shines on the page. No, I think Lawson probably brought a lot of that personality to it, and he stole the movie. I mean, whenever he was on the screen, this movie was cooking. It was great. It was funny. It was entertaining. And yeah, do that guy more of him. Because he was just, like I said, just really entertaining. He actually had a decent little plot line, where he had some character turns and some actual motivation, and that was lacking for the rest of the movie. So yeah.
Yeah, he brings like exactly what I would want from like a Mortal Kombat movie, but it's like it doesn't work as well when it's just the one guy doing it, right? Like he's got the good one-liners, he's got the wisecracks and the little bit of like for violence and stuff like that in him that I would expect from a lot of Mortal Kombat characters. That like it's like we have one Mortal Kombat character in the Mortal Kombat movie, and it's Kano.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. They need, and this is not something the older film was afraid to do, is they need to spread the cheese around.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of talk about Shang Tsung a little bit here, and just how disappointing he was in comparison to the older Shang Tsung from the older films, who's just absolutely hamming it up. And I mean, he's a villain that literally eats people's souls, right? But in this movie, he's so ho hum about it. He's like, "Oh, I'm eating your soul now." Like it's not.
I mean, all of them outside of Kano are just so flat. Raiden, he's a literal thunder god, and the dude's sleeping through his lines, and just kind of mumbling, and there's no personality or drive whatsoever. Shang Tsung was a big disappointment, especially compared to, like I say, the original actor. I can't remember his name right now, but dude's a beast. He was so great in that movie. But then look at Christopher Lambert as the original Raiden. Compare and contrast. There's actually humor and life and a little bit of mischief. And there was none of that here. Just complete flat blank slate performances all around, except for the one.
He's like the Mortal Kombat Zeus, right? Like it's supposed to be this kind of larger than life, like oh shit, that's Raiden figure.
And it really, I mean, I think that's kind of the main theme of this entire movie is just disappointment. It's they have such a rich, colorful playground that they do fuck all with. You have Goro, who's the big four-armed, monster. It's such an iconic figure in video games. And really cuts an imposing silhouette on a movie screen, and he gets his ass kicked in 2 minutes. And all of the villains, I think, were stumbled, were not handled well at all. Especially Shang Tsung, even though he didn't really fight at all. But then Molina was again favorite character who gets just tossed around.
I forgot Molina was even in the movie. Honestly.
I know, right?
Like until you mentioned her, I was like, oh yeah.
And there are a couple who when I first was watching it, I thought they were new characters as well, but then I learned that no, they were characters from the bad series of games. Around like numbers 5 through 8 or so.
Yeah,
which was the chick with the wings, Natara, and then the guy with the hammer,
Raiko.
Yeah. Why, filmmakers? Again, if you have this whole cast of iconic characters, why would you choose 2 that nobody give a shit about for your first big movie into this universe? And by the way, this is going to be a universe. They've like greenlit 5 of these fucking things.
Wow.
I know. So the Sub-Zero signed on for 5. Was the article I read. So why I just don't know why you would start with, these no names. Give me the goods. I want the beef.
I guess
maybe they were trying to pull a Marvel and like bring in these characters that no one's thought about in years, and like
I guess, but then like, okay, but if you want to do that, do something with them.
Yeah, make them cool, right?
Yeah, both of those characters had 0 lines, no dialogue whatsoever. They fly into the scene, one of them literally, and then dies, and that's it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, speaking of that, if we're going to talk about Natara and Raiko, which are possibly the two worst villains, even in recent film history that I've seen in a while, let's talk about one of the other fun characters that I actually kind of appreciated. Now, he only has half of a personality. He's not as good as Kano, but Kung Lao is pretty good in this movie.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
So Kung Lao, you guys will know him from the games. He's the dude with the spinny hat, buzzsaw hat. That's pretty much his personality. He's Liu Kang's buddy in every single game. He's always a good guy, and he's got the spinny saw blade hat. And I will say that I appreciate them doing his big fatality from the game. Right, is he puts the buzzsaw hat on the ground and he shoves someone through it like they're splitting a log. And he does that to the crappy Natara character who's, in the movie all of 5 seconds. But I thought that was probably the most gruesome moment in the movie, and I wanted to see more of that. I wanted to see more fatalities. And for a Mortal Kombat movie, there's really not a lot, honestly.
Yeah, I think we got a handful, but that was definitely the best one. Definitely the one that felt the most like, okay, we're going to take this, style from the game and then transport it onto the screen. And I'm not saying that it needs to be 100% like the game, by the way. I don't want to get into that argument. But I think you need to honor the spirit of it, and that was really one of the only times where I felt that.
Yeah, same here. I don't know. It's just not fun like it should be. Right. And I think I think Kung Lao, we were kind of talking about, because I think after Kung Lao wins that fight, he says the flawless victory line, right? Yeah. And we were kind of talking about like, you guys didn't like it. I liked it. I wish he had hammed it up even more. I just like, if you're gonna go bad and you're gonna go into the cheese territory, then just let him go full ham, And
I think that's for me that's why it didn't work, is because when they did do the cheese, it was very few and far between. If you're gonna do the cheesy action movie, thing, then go fucking ham on it.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I want that shit all over the place. I want it dripping with melty nacho cheese. It's just the one little bits here and there didn't work for me.
Which I think if you're going to make Mortal Kombat and you're going to make it work, you either have to go the complete cheese route like that, or it's going to have to be like, some kind of crazy like John Wick with powers movie or something. Like it's going to have to be one or the other, where it's like flawlessly made action movie, or like just have it dripping with the easy gooey goodness,
Which that opening scene, that's what I thought we were getting. I thought we were going to get John Wick with superpowers.
Right.
Or the raid with superpowers. That's what it felt like they were going, and then it does a complete 180 into made-for-TV, quality.
Now, they do add a couple of other big names. They have Cabal come in for absolutely no reason other than just to have Cabal on the screen. And, like, it was cool to see his powers, but he's just another jobber. Like, he doesn't do anything. He kind of talks to Kano for 1 second. He's like, hey, you should be bad. And then Kano turns bad. Which is...
Oh, you're right. I should be done.
Which is not, unexpected at all if you know the character from the games. But there's really just, I don't know. It's a very, very loose script that they got for these characters, for these really good characters. I kind of wonder if they worked with NetherRealm Studios at all in any way, because honestly, the recent games have been pretty complex as far as story goes.
Surprisingly so.
Yeah, surprisingly so. For fighting games, they've had a pretty robust story campaign. A lot of lines, a lot going on. It's not Shakespeare. It's still people ripping each other's guts out.
Oh, it's nutty as all hell, but it's there's a complexity there that, that shows they obviously care about it and spend a lot of time fleshing it out. Which this movie needed some of that. This felt just so slapdash and just thrown together. And okay, we have a couple of cool fight scenes in mind, so let's try to come up with this basic story to wrap around that. And even that really kind of failed.
I think it all comes back to Cole Young and the audience surrogate thing.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to make a movie like Mortal Kombat, you have to realize that this is a franchise that is sustained by the fans in the community. And if you get enough fans and enough of that community interested in the film, then that enthusiasm will breach out to the normal casual audience. But I think trying to make a Mortal Kombat movie appeal to a casual fan base first is a big mistake, because you're watering it down, you're making it less interesting, you're giving us a boring main character. Like, just reference stuff that only fans are going to know about at this point, because it's already an M-rated game. It's already a game where people's heads explode and just ridiculous, shit is happening all the time. Mortal Kombat's been around since the 90s. I don't feel like it's a movie that you just need to completely say, hey, I want a whole casual audience thing here. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, people who go to see a movie like this, they go to see it because they want the action, right? At least for me, I know that's what I was looking forward to the most. I wanted some kick-ass action scenes, some one-on-one fights with some cool superpowers. Hopefully it's shot well, hopefully it's choreographed well. If they can get that stuff right, then we're going to have a good time. Where I think the big failure of this movie was trying to remove the tournament structure from the story. Mortal Kombat, the name, it's referencing this tournament, right? And so you go into this expecting you're going to get basically, I guess, Enter the Dragon or Bloodsport or Best of the Best, that kind of structured movie,
right?
Where it's really just a string of fights hung together by this underdog story of a tournament kind of thing. Fight rising the ranks. I think had they done that, this movie really could have worked, but instead they tried to flip the script and remove the tournament aspect and make this weird story, about mystery of somebody's legacy and Shang Tsung and his band trying to cheat the Elder Gods and all this stuff, and it just was kind of incomprehensible when it really just needed to just simplify, do the nuts and bolts. Show me the fights, wrap it around a simple story. I think this could have been a lot better had they done that.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and it's kind of like they're saving all the cool stuff for the future, 4 films or whatever they want to do. I don't know if they're going to be able to get to 4, but they might.
No, yeah. This thing was, I guess you could say, a modest financial success. Obviously, we're in the pandemic, and it did have, it bested Godzilla Vs.Kong's box office for the pandemic. So that's good news. We're definitely going to get a sequel. It's really going to depend on, if it can sustain for as much as they want. I don't think so. I'm not confident that it can.
It has a lot of hype.
Big turnaround. The sequel will be awesome. With the tournament, we'll all love it, and we'll be talking about how it was the best thing ever. Yeah, I think you're probably right.
To me, I don't understand the decision to not start with the tournament, though. That's the bread and butter. That's the thing that people love, is that tournament setting.
And when you
if you want to go into the war between the realms and all that stuff, that's your sequel fodder. You need to get the nuts and bolts done first, though. Get the foundation done.
And you miss out on so many cool elements of Mortal Kombat. Like, we got a Johnny Cage tease at the end, right?
Yeah.
Put him in the first movie. Come on. You need Johnny Cage in the first movie to lighten up, the hero side. And then if you'd
have had him playing off against Kano, a good Johnny Cage actor playing off against Josh Lawson as Kano, that'd have been fucking gold.
Excellent, yeah. And then also, if you're doing the tournament, you get Shao Khan, right? Who is the most interesting villain, probably, in Mortal Kombat history. You get Shao Khan sitting up on his big freaking throne of bones and shit. It would have been fun, That's how you start a movie. That's how you start the franchise. And like you said, all of the battle between the Elder Gods going on behind the scenes, that builds up in your movies, 2, 3, and 4 and all of that. Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. I guess, if we're going to continue to talk about Mortal Kombat real quickly, let's go to the very last scene of the film, because it has more of what we liked from the first scene, right? Yeah. You got Scorpion finally resurfacing. I don't know if they explained this or not, but is there any reason he didn't come back up from hell until that point in time? Is there?
No. Dramatic license. I guess they just wanted to save it for the end. I guess maybe it was Cole had not found his arcana yet. We haven't really touched about the whole MacGuffin
Oh boy.
aspect of the movie was that each of the characters had to unlock their superpower, their arcana. And that's how Sub-Zero has his frost thing, Sonya has her, spinny or her ring things, Kano has his eye, laser, cool powers, kind of iconic powers. And then there's Cole Young, who his, badass superpower that's going to make him a protector of the world is a vest and 2 sticks.
It looks like it's out of Batman and Robin. It's like
it was like his torso turns into, I guess, armor, and he gets a couple of stick weapons, and that's it. And you're putting him up against a literal demon from hell and a guy who can control ice. And it was silly. It was.
Come on! Liu Kang can shoot fire and make a fire-breathing dragon. Exactly. This guy's the hero. I guess we haven't really seen the full extent of his arcana or whatever, but man, they could have picked a better power. They literally had any power they could pick from, and they picked this one.
Yeah, I was thinking, okay, maybe it was only going to be the weird shirt. That's really what it was. It was a magic shirt. For the first scene, and in the climax, maybe it was going to be like, okay, he has this cool organic full body armor type thing,
right?
But then no, it's just the shirt. And it just looked silly. It looked dumb. It really just looked laughable. Looked dumb.
I feel like with a little bit more of a budget, you could have made it look better too. It just didn't even look good.
Yeah,
thought it fit the character so perfectly. Boring character, boring power. It's the character getting his full arc of just standard I don't know, give him a power, man.
Well, or
armor and a stick.
And again, here we are being, Monday morning quarterback here. But if you're going to make him the descendant of Scorpion, then give him Scorpion's powers. Pass that legacy on to a new character. That could have worked. That could have been cool.
If he would have turned into Scorpion, that would have been kind of fucking cool.
Yeah.
That would have been really cool. Yeah.
I think now of course you get rid of Hiroyuki Sanada at that point, which would be an unfortunate thing. But having him pass his legacy and his powers down to a new character, I think that could have been pretty dope instead of the sticks and the shirt.
Yeah, and speaking of Scorpion, he finally comes back up from hell to assist in this fight against Sub-Zero at the very end of the film. And now I'm wondering, okay, he can come back at any time. Is he a regular in the next few movies, or is what's going on with he walked around in hell for 300 years or something, or I don't know, thousands of years, something, and he just now randomly decides to come back up. I was like, come on, man, it's a Mortal Kombat movie, and you literally have Scorpion in 2 scenes, and he's only the fully fledged Scorpion with all of his cool powers in the very last scene of the film.
And so if his whole thing is, okay, I'm going to be a demon of revenge to kill Bihan, Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero's been walking the planet for the 400 years that you've been in hell, and why are you just now coming back?
You
could have gotten this shit done already. It's nonsensical. I mean, I don't need every little thing explained to me in a movie at all, but I still need to have internal logic for what you're doing, and this movie did not deliver on that front at all.
Yeah, at least make it fun. I mean, it's just more fun to have Scorpion around anyway, and as the main character. But I guess going forward into the future, Cole Young maybe will get some sort of interesting power. But okay, so this movie was decently successful. I think we're definitely getting a sequel. And I want to ask you guys, I'll start with you, Nick, do you think that there is a chance that they could redeem themselves, that now that this movie has been somewhat of a success, that it will, propel them to give them more of a budget, hire better actors, maybe Johnny Cage will be really funny. Do you think this series has a bright future, Nick?
Okay. Whoa. I thought you were saying, is there a chance they turn it around?
Well, yeah, okay. Well, will they turn it around? Will it have a bright future, or will it just kind of be meandering? What do you think?
I think they should change directors.
Yeah.
We got a first time feature-length director here.
And it was pretty clear it was his first time.
Yeah. I think they should change directors, and yeah, I think it's possible. And it's going to require, I think that's going to be the number one thing is change of direction and maybe some changes with writing and stuff. But I think it all comes down to you change the director and maybe find somebody with a more clear idea of what they want, and we might get something good. You know, it could happen, especially if the next movie is the tournament arc, and like then like it might not even matter about the writing and the story as much as long as it feels like a movie where I'm a grown man that's handling my inner kid smashing his action figures together or something, you know. like
Right.
If we get to do that, then maybe it'll be cool, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Kevin? Will they stop after 2? Is this going to keep going?
Well, I mean, if it makes money, no, they're not going to stop. You know, it's a business first. Here's what I hope happens. I hope that lessons get learned, and we bring in a creative team who has experience and a focused vision of what this franchise can be, because it can be good. It really can be. All the pieces are there. It just needs to focus. I hope they kind of look at the next one as a soft reboot. We can keep the actors, keep the characters crossed over. That's fine, but let's go into that tournament arc, that foundation Mortal Kombat story, and let's do that really, really well. I hope that's the case. Well, here's what you do. You go on YouTube, okay, and you watch clips of that opening scene, which is dope, legitimately good, and then you watch the fight scenes. And you know you're out in 20 minutes. Done.
Yeah. Maybe Google a little like compilation of Kano clips for his one-liners, and then you're good to go. It's really. All right, Future Kevin has returned for the last and final time. That was the Godzilla vs. Kong Mortal Kombat Lost episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that this week. We will be back with more film reviews in the future, and I'll be joined by the boys again, Kevin Rice and Nick Birch, and of course I'm Kevin Folks. We're the Lords of the Screen podcast. We're a film and entertainment podcast. You can listen on all the podcast places, Google, Spotify, all of that. And please join us on our YouTube page and join our Discord, have a little chat about some film. But thanks for listening, everyone, and I'll be back.